day here, Torino against Juventus. The local rivalry is intense, and the added drama that if Torino were to win, they would not only have the sweetness of victory to savour, they would also have the satisfaction of virtually ending the Juventus hopes of catching Milan. Revenge is also in the air after the last typically explosive Turin derby back in November. High pressure here, a great deal at stake. Very fast pace in the opening 10 minutes. Alessio. Mussi can't prevent the cross coming in. A terrific header. That's the threat that Juventus can produce. And Casiraghi came in most emphatically. Bruno believes that Casiraghi... Oh! He's off. Casiraghi went down in a manner in which you felt he might be trying to influence the referee. Bruno blocked off his run. And what happened has been sensational, and now look at this. Bruno wants to take the law into his own hands, and quite sensibly Lentini and Crevero restraining him. Pasquale Bruno, who played for Juventus from 1987 to 1990, and clearly fired up for this fixture, too fired up. Oh, now it looked to me as though Pollicano kicked out. I wonder whether both players have got to go. Certainly Pollicano is off. And Torino are down to 9 men. Explosion upon explosion here. And it was Casiraghi who went in and was kicked in the face. They've been looking for him. They found him. Di Fusco replaces the suspended Marchegiani in goal on a day when Torino have picked both Pasquale Bruno and Roberto Pollicano. Pollicano, who was sent off again in midweek in the UEFA Cup semi-final first leg against Real Madrid in Spain. The captain, Roberto Crevero, was carried off in that game, 15 stitches in a cut knee, so Benedetti comes into the defence. One other change with Venturin instead of Mussi. For the third league game in a row, Juventus are without their German defender, Jürgen Kohler. But Giancarlo Marocchi is available again and replaces Luigi D'Agostini, who's been ill this week. Salvatore Schillaci saved them from defeat here last Sunday with a late equaliser against Lazio. Roberto Baggio, 9 goals in his last 8 games. Those have really stopped Milan getting totally out of reach. Fabio Baldas is the referee. It's not always been an easy job amidst the passion of an occasion such as this one. There have been 4 red cards in the last 3 derbies. And already Bruno is penalised. Schillaci, the object of his attentions, and that's within seconds. I hope that really doesn't set the tone. And Juventus really mustn't get involved in any vendettas here. It's very important. Really, their season hanging on the need to win this match, and most of those remaining as well. Di Fusco, who's 30 years old and had a spell as a reserve with Napoli in their championship era. It's very wet all over northern Italy. So the pugnacious Pollicano takes the throw. It is Lentini. Lentini, who made a dramatic impact recently for Italy in their friendly international against Germany, when he came on as a substitute and earned the penalty, which beat the Germans. The scorer of that penalty in the opposing ranks today, of course, it was Baggio. Pollicano. Annoni, another piratical looking figure. Rafael Martin Vasquez, who reacquainted himself with his former Real Madrid colleagues in midweek. Torino were beaten 2-1 incidentally in Spain, the second leg here in 10 days' time. Stefan Reuter miscalculated. In fact, he was pretty much outskilled there by Annoni. Referee right on the spot. It's important that he maintains that vigilance. Annoni limps away, but Pollicano has a good look at this. Who really does pack a wallop in that left foot. And Torino have put Annoni and Schifo in the wall. Here goes Pollicano. Stood firm enough. And Bruno, who is very much a marker of vigilance and at times venom as well. And he's in trouble here for tangling with Schillaci, and past offences are being remembered all around the stadium. And referee Baldas reaches for a card, but I'm sure this will be a yellow one. There are plenty who felt that was the appropriate punishment back in November, and that Casaraghi made a meal of the foul, a foul that Bruno protested against, and then of course got himself a heavy ban by his subsequent outburst, the like of which I don't think I've ever seen in a major match, when Bruno really refused to go. Reuter. Schillaci arriving quickly. Well, his goal rescued Juventus from defeat very much in the closing seconds a week ago. Now he waits in the centre for Alessio's corner, hoping to turn the Turin derby the way of Juventus. Straight forward for Di Fusco. Lentini controlled it well. And support arriving. It's Pollicano! Well, Tacconi got to it when it looked as though he would be left helpless. Respect from the player denied the goal. And that's the better side of Pollicano, who is a thrilling player, if a temperamental one. Great stop though by Tacconi. Corner already taken, and it's Bruno. Well, the build-up here, although it has been interrupted by midweek activity for both clubs. We talked about Torino in Europe. Juventus back on Tuesday played Milan in the first leg of the semi-final of the Italian Cup and got a creditable goalless draw. It should be stressed that the cup competition here doesn't really carry the full weight of the First Division. It's always pleasant to win it, and Juventus may have to settle for that as their trophy for the season. Conte came during the season from Lecce. Schifo stopping him. Baggio, who apart from scoring goals regularly for Juventus, has got 4 in his last 3 internationals. Carrera trying to get a good grip for the throw here. Lentini. And he was allowed to get back to it when it seemed the ball had gone. Marocchi. Torino 4th in the table, and it would have been higher. They could have been up alongside Juventus had they been able to find a regular goal scorer. Gallia, the player foul. Torino have been magnificent defensively, but there's been a shortfall in their strike rate. Schifo, oh, he took a chance then. And he was lucky to get away with that, backing his own control so close to his own goal. And it was a bet that he lost, but Juventus couldn't seize on the mistake to score. The Torino fans remember Casiraghi, not with affection, and that from Casiraghi's cross was almost an own goal by Luca Fusi. It was a quick cross, and for that reason alone was menacing. Taken up by Marocchi. Marocchi again, Schilacci. Good play here from Juventus. This is Alessio. Bruno couldn't stop the cross, coming in, Baggio! It's a corner. Head scratching by Casiraghi as Juventus comes so close. And the build-up deserved some sort of conclusion here, and Baggio almost provided it, and Noni just got in the way. Alessio to take the corner. Casagrande back in his own penalty area, who scored the Torino goal in Spain in midweek. Schifo. Lentini. Oh. Well, he lost his balance on this slippery surface. Schilacci, and Bruno, having been booked, has got to be very careful. Schilacci rather easily got the better of him, but commanding work from Fusi again. Pollicano. Here's Martin Vasquez. Pollicano, Casagrande has got to it. Oh, and spurned the chance of shooting. In the end, played the ball to Schifo, who then lost it. And gave away a free kick. But when Casagrande spun back onto his left foot then, there was certainly an angle for the shot. His coach, Emiliano Mondonico, might well have expected a bit more ambition from the Brazilian. Lentini. The sort of surface where defenders can change direction particularly easily, and Juventus in troubles here of their own making. Julio Cesar in the end came in strongly, and Marocchi keeping up the very quick pace that these derby games always seem to have, and also the continual lack of judgment in the tackling. Pollicano didn't need to risk giving away a foul then, with Schilacci heading only towards the touchline. And Bruno was alongside him. The chance again for Juventus maybe to exploit the lack of recent match practice at this level for Di Fusco. Oh, and it's Carrera. It was a chance, and maybe it came to the wrong man. A tough defender found himself here with a ball that was just behind him, really, to make a confident strike a little less than likely. And it's still 0-0, but that's not for the want of trying by both sides. It's not one of the days, and there are some in Italy, it has to be said, when a point apiece would be a political outcome. For the most part, referee Baldas has been able to maintain control. And Martin Vasquez was fouled by Marocchi in what, from that angle, looked a genuine attempt to play the ball. The foot was up, which is something of an extra crime in Italy. Undoubtedly a free kick to Torino, and the referee, I would say, has shown a fair amount of common sense here in just leaving it at that. And Noni with the free kick. Well, Juventus have an inquest here, because Enzo Schifo was not marked, not picked up. And that could have turned it Torino's way right on half-time. Wasn't an easy chance with the ball dropping. Baggio against really his opposite number in terms of playmaking in this match, Schifo. And back by Martin Vasquez, the header from Carrera. Marocchi, pressed by Martin Vasquez again. Conte. Baggio getting the better of Annoni. Marocchi. Schillaci for Conte, needed a surer touch as he came onto it. Schillaci is still there trying to get the better of it, and as Torino dallied with too many players and not one of them taking full responsibility, Schillaci kept on going. Conte momentarily lost his way. Fusi had the ball, it seemed, then the goalkeeper, they thought, but Schillaci had other ideas. Is into the third minute of time added on, and at half-time in the Turin derby, not a goal to show for considerable efforts in that respect by both sides. Pollicano breaking through one-on-one with Tacconi for Torino, and Juventus with Baggio probing and Schillaci hunting have certainly caused some scares at the other end, but it's goalless in Turin at the halfway stage. Torino to kick off at the start of the second half. The question of fatigue from their travels to Spain, and indeed from the bruising nature of their UEFA Cup semi-final first leg, might be a matter of consideration as the game develops in such a high-pressure encounter as this one. But one would expect the players really to be able to fight the fatigue, the two sets of supporters, a great stimulus. Gallia. Fusi has coped well as the leader and the sweeper in Cravero's absence over Casagrande. Gallia. down the years. Juventus just have the edge in victories in these matches, 79 wins to 71. Schillaci. More reminders that although the World Cup set him up as a goal scorer apart and set standards really that he hasn't been able to maintain, but he does offer more than just the ability to put the ball in the net. It's fortunate that he does, because on the criteria of strike rate he might have lost his place in the side, but he harries the life out of defenders with his chasing. Schifo, who also had a good World Cup until Belgium's progress was abruptly and perhaps somewhat unluckily ended by England. Annoni. Well, Casagrande, had he been able to stretch a little further, he might have been able to deflect it goalwards. Casagrande, who came here from Ascoli, and he was always playing in a side that was short of goals. He would have expected more from Torino, really, in terms of support. But it's been their defending that's taken them into the top four. Schifo. Martin Vasquez. Well, he tries the shot, and it had some devil in it too. And really, it is very much worth taking a risk like that from long range, with the ball so greasy. Tacconi got it behind for a corner, and Martin Vasquez takes it himself. A little too strongly. Camera on the touchline getting a close-up view of Pollicano as he nearly knocked it off its perch. Here's Gallia. Conte. Marocchi joining in. Baggio pulling out for a shorter pass. Marocchi wanting to maybe try and give Casaraghi a chance in the air. Remember, it was his header, and an exceptionally good one. Who won the last league meeting between these two great rivals. It was Rafael and Martin Vasquez who tried to win it here for Torino, at least, perhaps to give them the lead. Alessio. Well, you do wonder how the Juventus players over the past few weeks have been able to cope with the constant questioning about whether they believe they've lost the championship yet. Certainly that was the case a week ago, even though they matched Milan's draw against Roma with a draw of their own here. But it was another week gone by. And if there are any doubters, well, that must begin to show. Schifo. Torino having tasted the European experience, certainly aiming to qualify again if they can by league positioning. When you watch Pollicano play, his left leg looks much stronger than the right, and that close-up suggested that it was more muscular. Schifo. Annoni. Oh, he's hit it very well indeed. And again, Tacconi got behind it, this time knocking it back into play. Schifo needed some help to his right, and Annoni supplied it willingly, and the shot, stingingly for the goalkeeper. Bruno. Casagrande, there's some pushing there. you feel that Torino haven't got the ball into the penalty area often enough for the liking of Casagrande. Most of their better efforts have come from outside the penalty area. But well forward here is Schillaci, and that will do Di Fusco plenty of good. Schillaci really didn't hit it with the strength he would have liked, and it was going across the goal rather than into it. Schillaci comes off. For Torino. I would think he's not too pleased about it unless there is an injury that hasn't been apparent. It's a midfield player coming on for a front man for Juventus. Whether Trapattoni believes that there's a danger of matters getting out of hand here. Casagrande and Noni. Carini has certainly got some midfield craft. Maybe might fashion a pass or two for Casiraghi. We can expect Baggio to go further forward, but it's Martin Vasquez doing that for Torino for a moment, and then Schifo has to send it back into his own half to Fusi. Lentini. Now Venturin. Schifo. He'll get a second chance. Oh, Casagrande! And the flag is up. And it went up straight away. Played in by Schifo. And it must have been Benedetti who was offside, the number 5. Now Gallia. Alessio. Casiraghi is away from Benedetti. Is this the moment for Juventus? And Di Fusco stops from Baggio, and the ball's behind. Casiraghi crashes into the advertising hoardings and makes a real hole in that one. Whether that's made a hole in him, one hopes not. It was a great play from Pierluigi Casiraghi to get away, to find Baggio, one touch to control it, the second to drill it goalwards. And that was the best stop so far from Di Fusco. Alessio. And Di Fusco has it covered again. He's had an odd career, this Torino reserve goalkeeper. On one occasion with Napoli, he ended up in an injury crisis, coming on and playing as an outfield player for a few minutes at the end of one league game. But he's back where he belongs here, and he's doing very well indeed. Marchegiani, incidentally, was sent off last week against Inter, who were without Walter Zenga in their goal, and the reserve goalkeeper Abate was also given the red card, and remarkably that match finished goalless, as it is here. Pollicano. Martin Vasquez. Out by Alessio. On from Baggio. Maybe the removal of Schillaci has just given some extra spaces for Casiraghi to find with his runs, and Baggio with his dribbling skills. He looked aggrieved at Bruno's challenge, but more aggrieved that the referee saw nothing wrong in it. Lentini, as Juventus were looking for a penalty. They're forced back here by Martin Vasquez, and Torino have scored. It's Casagrande. They gave him the ammunition then. And within seconds of Juventus hoping that the referee might give them a decision at one end, he's given a goal at the other. Martin Vasquez, who's had his critics here in Italy, but superb play from the Spaniard. And then off the brow of the Brazilian. Well, now it's approaching crisis time for Juventus. Seven games left in the season after this one. If they lose here and Milan win at home to Sampdoria today, the margin would be 6 points, with only 14 left to play for. And Milan, given that scenario, still very much unbeaten. So Juventus badly need Julio Cesar to put that a bit lower. The ramifications of this situation now really being assessed by the Juventus supporters, and I'm sure by the players as well, as they try to keep their concentration on the current battle. But wouldn't there be huge irony if it was the club that shares the stadium here that effectively condemned Juventus to second place this season rather than the status of champions? Carini, Alessio, Carini, Alessio, Carini again. Swept out by Benedetti. Lentini held it up well. Didn't run for Martin Vasquez that time. Conte. Policano, just holding reasonably defensively down the left-hand side. And Torino, as they have shown all season, they are a very tough nut to crack defensively. Lentini. Oh, Tacconi let it run. Has it stayed in play? I'm not so sure. The linesman has kept his flag down, so it has to all intents and purposes. Martin Vasquez pushed out, and Casagrande right on the spot again. Such is the emotion here. Casagrande almost crying, it seemed, in delight. But Tacconi got it wrong not once but twice. It was the much harder job to push it out here after yet again down the right-hand side. Martin Vasquez was too good for Juventus. But prior to this, the ball that had drifted beyond Tacconi held the key, really. Juventus have brought on another substitute while we were looking again at the goal. 2 in 6 minutes for Casagrande. Di Canio has replaced Conte. But nothing, I believe, can replace the 2 goals that have been conceded now for Juventus. Schifo! Here's Lentini. A 2-goal haul, something of a luxury for Torino, and certainly for Casagrande. It's doubled his total in the league this season. At times he looks leggy and awkward, but like all Brazilians, he's got a very good touch when he's balanced. And Schifo, the Belgian, swooping into the shot then. Marocchi. Out came Fusi, who's been the general at the back. Lentini, Julio Cesar backpedaling, wanting someone else to make a tackle. Casagrande on a hat-trick. Well, Schifo intercepted, and now there are 3 players down. Carrera, Julio Cesar, and Casagrande. And that looks like a shoulder problem. It's a pretty soft landing after all the rain, but it must have been an awkward fall. Given that Casagrande has already scored against Real Madrid in the first leg, you can see clearly there was an offside with Lentini slow coming back. But given that Real Madrid coming here the week after next, Casagrande will definitely be required, but they might not need him for the rest of this match, in which he has had a major match-winning influence, it seems. On comes Musi. It was the shoulder, but also we saw some strapping on that left wrist. But Casagrande goes off to a thunderous ovation from the Torino followers. Schifo. Carini, in the end, had lost the ball and got it back unfairly. Well, this cancels out the defeat for Torino at the hands of Juventus in November. Venturin making his way to the touchline. The second substitution for Mondonico, replaced by Sordo. And that will use up a little more time. Schifo. A desperate day all round for Juventus. And no one knows that better than Trapattoni at the far end of the bench. Brought back here from Inter to try and get Juventus back to the standards that he set when he was here as coach before, and winning the title seemed to be something of a formality. Of course, it never was that. Juventus were superb in that era. Trapattoni has undoubtedly improved their play, but the misfortune for him has been the magnificence of Milan. Oh, against the bar! Casiraghi, was it? He goes in again. It hasn't been their day, and given their aims at the outset, one really believes now that it's not going to be their season. They still have a chance in the Italian Cup, but the league now seems destined to go to Milan, and Torino have beaten Juventus by 2-0, and it stayed at 0 despite the great header by Casiraghi right at the end. And he hadn't given it up even after the rebound. So Bruno is a winner today. 2 goals from Casagrande. Great satisfaction for Torino, and terrible sadness for Juventus. They've lost the derby, and also, as we await the news from San Siro, one suspects that they have lost the league as well. Unbeaten in 15 league games and boosted by recent European Cup success away to Red Star Belgrade, Sampdoria represented a major obstacle to the league leaders. Milan started by shooting on sight, Pagliuca peppered by Albertini, and stranded when Donadoni's shot was deflected onto the bar. The policy paying off for Milan with a successful snapshot from Frank Rijkaard after 34 minutes. A clever pass from Catanets put Mancini in the clear, but the expected equaliser didn't materialise. And although Rijkaard came close again, it stayed 1-0 to Milan until half-time. Then the ceiling fell in on Sampdoria. Alberigo Ebani drilled in his first league goal this season. And Sampdoria's problems were compounded by a show of dissent from Catanets, who couldn't believe that the referee had shown him the red card. Milan even more purposeful now. Another Albertini effort turned onto the bar. Marco van Basten's tally rising to 22. And 20 minutes later, Donadoni delivering a perfect pass for Massaro to make it 4-0. Sampdoria crushed, beaten for the first time since November, although they did conjure up a fine goal for